Welcome to the deep dive. Imagine getting an incredibly personal, sort of direct window into the life of a former head of state,
Mhm.
someone currently held in an international court.
And it's quite something to think about.
Exactly. And today we're doing just that. We're going to dive into a really fascinating collection of sources. Primarily, there's a July 6th, 2025 report from philstar.com.
The one titled Duterte Off His Meds Down to Skin and Bones.
That's the one.
Yeah.
He gives us an update pretty much straight from his former wife, Elizabeth Zimmerman.
And what's really compelling here, I think, is how these, intensely personal insights give us this rare glimpse. It's the human side of a really significant international legal proceeding.
Right.
So our goal really is to cut through the noise, pull out those crucial insights, the nuggets that help you understand what's really going on.
Yeah, and how these personal stories kind of fit into that bigger legal picture.
Exactly, connecting the dots.
Okay, so let's start with those immediate details. The ones from the Philstar report by Edith Regalado and Bella Cariaso. They really focus on Elizabeth Zimmerman's observations.
About his physical state, his daily routine, after what, over 100 days in detention now?
Yeah, over 100 days. And Zimmerman apparently describes him as having become, quote, so thin, skin and bones, unlike in the picture. That's a direct quote.
Wow, that's quite visual.
It is. She also noted, though, that he's, quote, healthy, but he is an old man and apparently walks slowly.
So a bit contradictory, maybe. Healthy but frail.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And perhaps the most surprising bit, she claims he told her he's no longer taking any meds.
No meds at all. That's interesting given his age and the circumstances. It offers such a stark contrast to the usual very formal legal reports we see.
Totally.
But it's not just the physical description either. You have to think about the psychological side. A former head of state, at the absolute pinnacle of power, now reportedly off his meds, described as skin and bones by his ex-wife. It immediately makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the toll detention takes.
The sheer stress of it all, even on someone, known for being tough.
Exactly. His reputation for resilience versus this image.
Absolutely. And building on that, what's maybe even more revealing about his daily life is what Zimmerman said about his routine.
Okay, what did she say?
She shared that he apparently spends much of his time watching television and sleeping.
Just...
Pretty much. She elaborated, saying, and again, this is a quote, he just wants to sleep, watch TV. After he watches TV, he then sleeps. That's it.
That's it. Wow. Incredibly simple. Almost mundane, really.
Right.
It is, but that simplicity, I think, is powerful. It sort of strips away the whole political persona,
Yeah.
and reveals a man whose world has just shrunk dramatically. We're not just talking about a legal case file here. It feels like it's about a human being reduced to these really basic routines.
It's a huge shift.
Yeah.
A profound shift from a life that, well, commanded global attention.
Yeah. What stands out to you about that kind of transformation?
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Going from leading a country to just sleeping and watching TV. But, despite that apparent simplicity, his connections seem to remain strong.
How so?
Well, Zimmerman explained she was there taking her turn watching over him. She'd replaced their son, Paulo Duterte. He's Davao City rep now, who'd gone back to the Philippines.
Okay, so the family is rotating visits.
Seems like it. And she recounted Duterte's immediate questions were about Davao City. He specifically asked, how is Davao? Is based okay? That's Sebastian Duterte, because he's the acting mayor.
Based, right. And Zimmerman confirmed he's okay.
She did. And she also mentioned their grandsons are involved politically, too. Rodrigo Duterte II, he's the acting vice mayor of Davao City.
Okay.
And Omar Vincent Duterte, who's the Davao City 2nd District rep.
This isn't just like casual family chat, is it? It really underscores how deep those Duterte political roots still run in Davao.
Even with him in The Hague.
Exactly. And Sebastian's role as acting mayor, that came about because the DL, that's the Department of Interior and Local Government.
Right, the main agency overseeing local government.
Yeah, they appointed him after the former president couldn't take his oath as mayor. It was a procedural thing, but it shows that enduring family influence. It's right there.
And politically, he also asked, Zimmerman said, did the Hugbong win?
Hugpong Pagbabago, that's Vice President Sara Duterte's party, right? Big regional player.
Yep, the key political vehicle for them in the South, really. And Zimmerman confirmed, yes, most of them are from Hugpong.
So his mind is still very much on the political game back home?
Seems so. He then asked her to pass on his gratitude to his supporters, and, kind of tellingly, advised her to go home because, quote, the fare is expensive.
Practical, maybe? We're just aware of the situation?
Could be. Zimmerman, for her part, thanked his supporters too and actually declared, "I believe in him also."
Still loyal then, despite everything.
Apparently. She even recalled telling a court once that he was a good leader, but there is something wrong, he has a flaw. Didn't say what the flaw was, though.
Interesting she'd bring that up.
And she also reflected a bit on their marriage. It was annulled after 25 years, saying, "I need rest also. I was sickly and already had my operation."
You know, this whole exchange really highlights how much influence, or at least concern, a former leader keeps over their base, their family's political roles.
Even from detention?
Even from detention, yeah. The questions about Hug Pong, the message to supporters, it shows where his head's at.
And Zimmerman's comments, too.
Uh-huh.
That loyalty mixed with acknowledging a flaw. It adds another really complex layer, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It shows these enduring personal and political ties are still very much active, despite everything happening legally.
Okay, let's pivot a bit then. Let's shift to the core legal reason he's there, the ICC proceedings, the International Criminal Court.
Right, the big one.
For listeners maybe less familiar, the ICC is basically the world's permanent court for prosecuting individuals for, the really serious stuff. Genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity.
And Duterte's case focuses on those alleged crimes against humanity.
Exactly. Specifically, linked to the deaths of thousands during his drug war. He's awaiting trial for that. He was arrested back on March 11th at NAIA.
Ninoy Aquino International Airport.
Right. And then flown hours later to The Hague. Now, his legal team, they're actively working on something.
What's that?
They're seeking his interim release from detention. And they want him transferred to a third country, one that's actually a member of the ICC.
Okay, so they're trying to get him out of the Hague Detention Center, at least temporarily. But I assume the prosecution isn't just letting that slide.
Not at all. The report says the tribunal's office of the prosecutor is contesting the request.
And their reasoning.
Citing the risk of endangering ongoing investigations.
Yeah.
And maybe even jeopardizing the court's proceedings themselves.
Well, that makes sense. There's an immediate tension there, isn't there? It's not just procedural.
Yeah.
It really highlights this incredibly delicate balance in international justice. One wrong move could undermine years of investigation or set a tricky precedent for future cases with powerful figures.
So this request isn't just about Duterte's freedom.
Not entirely, no. I think it's also a kind of test case for the ICC's own authority and, well, its integrity. Can it withstand pressure? Can it keep proceedings on track?
Makes sense. And the source gives a few other sort of related updates that help paint the fuller picture of this legal battle.
Like what?
Well, Duterte's lawyer apparently wants to submit Aimé's report to ICC. Senator Aimé Marcos's report, presumably, adds another angle to their defense strategy.
Okay, bringing in more material.
And the ICC judges, the plenary, they dismissed a request to disqualify 2 pretrial judges on his case.
Ah, so they ruled the judges weren't biased.
Exactly. The headline was ICC, 2 judges in Duterte case not biased, which, reinforces the court's stance on neutrality on due process, important for its legitimacy.
Crucial, yeah. Anything else?
Just that the prosecutor's office submitted its 11th batch of evidence against him on July 5th. So the prosecution's clearly still building its case moving forward.
11th batch. That signals ongoing serious work.
Definitely. And then there's this other little detail from a related headline. Almost feels tacked on, but...
Go on.
Apparently while detained, Duterte advised 13 novia girlfriends to find new novios, new boyfriends.
13? Well, that last detail, while maybe seeming trivial, it's certainly a uniquely human element to pop up in such a serious context, isn't it?
Quite the message to send from detention.
Indeed. But, getting back to the legal side, the progression of the case itself, the evidence keeps coming, the bias claims get dismissed. It really signals the ICC's determination. They're moving forward.
Right.
And this brings up a really important question, I think, for you listening to consider. What does the very fact that this case is progressing involving a former head of state like this, what does that signal for the future, for international accountability for leaders around the world?
So,
yeah,
what does this all mean for you? Today, we've tried to go beyond just the headlines, give you this incredibly personal but also legally significant look at former President Duterte's detention.
From his physical state, those simple daily routines.
Right, to his family's ongoing political roles back home, and then this whole intricate dance of the international legal proceedings.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have a much more informed picture now.
And if we zoom out just a bit, you can see this case isn't only about one individual, right? It's really a window into how international justice is evolving.
Hmm.
The personal cost of these high-stakes political lives and those enduring connections that, well, that bind leaders to where they came from.
It makes you think about how these personal stories, the reports from an ex-wife, the
Mm.
concern for family, how they shape how we understand these huge global legal frameworks.
Exactly, and the whole concept of accountability when it's applied to really powerful people. So think about it. What stands out to you most about this unique situation? How might it influence future cases?
That's our deep dive for today. We aim to give you those essential points, those nuggets, so you feel truly well-informed.
Yeah, hope you found these insights, well, both surprising and maybe a little thought-provoking.